Welcome to chapter 19 of the book of Deuteronomy. Cities of refuge, places where a manslayer could flee to, someone that killed somebody by accident, when the next of kin decides to take vengeance for whatever reason. It begins, but whenever Kyrios, the Lord your God, Theos, Su, should remove from view the nations which your God gives to you of their land, that is, the nations in the land of Canaan when they're gone, and you should inherit them, take the place of them, and should dwell in their cities and in their houses, you shall draw apart to yourself 3 cities in the midst of your land, which the Lord your God gives to you. So they are to set apart this place for these 3 cities. Today, in Israel, this is not taking place. I don't think it hasn't for thousands of years. Take thought to yourself of the way, and you shall make 3 parts the boundaries of your land which the Lord your God divides to you, and it will be there for a refuge to every manslayer. A kataphagi is a refuge. A refuge is a place, like it says, this person could go to. Now, this whole chapter is all about this process of these cities. And you'd say, well, this is pretty boring because they don't even have them anymore, so why are we even reading that? But I believe that this word is the key to this whole chapter, the kataphagi, a refuge to one that's fleeing. A fugitive comes that last part of that word there. So I looked up this number 2707.1, and it only appears in the Old Testament. It doesn't appear in the New. So how is this going to relate to the New Testament people? So I looked in the Old Testament, and I found all the places that it mentions this refuge, and it was like a beautiful word study, and it's easy to do with the Apostolic Bible because you get the number above, and you can go and back to the lexical concordance and look up the word and find every instance and go to them and study it. But basically, the first instance of this word is in 2 Samuel 22:6, outside of course, here. And it's Ode of David is what it's called. And David says, my shielder and my refuge. The Lord is his shielder and a refuge. So it was important to have a shielder. They had a man that carried the shield and helped the warrior by carrying his weapons. Jonathan, Saul's son, went down against the Philistines, and he had a shielder with him, a man that he talked to, and they decided to go down and make war. So God is a shielder. Well, now, we in the New Testament aren't in a physical war, but we're in a spiritual war. So I look at that Jesus, and I use that instead of God here. Jesus is a shielder to me. He is holding something up that when somebody attacks me, that he has something there that's in between. That person is not allowed to actually do me damage. And so the shielder. Then Psalms 9:9 is where all the rest of the quotations are, that basically the word was used by David. It says in Psalms 9:9, the Lord became a refuge to the needy. So it's not only to a warrior or a person that's in the battle, spiritual battle with people, but he's also a refuge to the needy. If you have needs, then you can go to the Lord, and he will take you in and find out what needs that you have and decide which way to fulfill the needs that you have. Psalms 18:2. The Lord is my firmament and my refuge and my rescuer. It's a little bit different. All of these are a little bit different. A firmament is the foundation. I stand on the Lord Jesus Christ. Don't stand on sand or quicksand and so forth, but Jesus is like a firmament. He's the foundation. And he is actually in the firmament, in the literal sense, in heaven. And he is also a rescuer. So he finds a person that is a believer that is in trouble for whatever reason, self-made problem or something somebody else happened, and the Christian is going under, like under water if he was drowning, and Jesus is the rescuer. He'll come and he'll pull a person out. He rescued me from sin, and he rescued me from a lot of misery in life because of living in sin. So he did rescue me. He rescues you also, and I'm sure he has a lot of you out there. And then in Psalms 31, 2 and 3, it says, "Become to me as a defending God, and for a house of refuge to deliver me." A house of refuge. So a place that you would go into, and that the doors would be shut, and you would be kept from harm. And Jesus is such. We go to him, and he protects us, delivers us. That is the word for salvation, to deliver. "For you are my fortification," excuse me, "and my refuge, and because of your name you shall guide me and nourish me." You are my fortification and my refuge. So we go to Jesus, and he's more than just someplace to sit behind in awe or with him, but he is a fortification. He has a strong way of defending against people. You have a fortification if you're going to face people that are going to be attacking you. And Jesus is this fortification. So if you feel like you're being attacked in different types of relationships or situations, so many different things in this attack, then go to Jesus, and he will take you in and make a fortification. I look at some people that have done some terrible things and go to prison and then give their life to the Lord, and then they turn away from sin and everything, and it's a dangerous place for them because of all of a sudden they don't do what the other convicts want, or if they've gotten out of jail and the people that knew them and expected them to do the evil deeds that put them into jail, but the person now is a Christian, that person could be attacked by these people that want to do the person harm. And a person could be afraid because of that. But yet I believe that once a person gives their life to Jesus, then it's in the Lord's hands. We're in refuge. A person that's in refuge doesn't have a whole lot of power on his own. He looks at this place of refuge or the person of refuge to help him. Then it says in Psalms 32:7, "You are my refuge from affliction." Now we can be afflicted because of physical problems. I have a bad hip, hurts a lot when I walk, and other people could be afflicted by other physical things, or could be afflicted by the being in an army and being treated bad, or being in a prison and being afflicted by other people and so forth. And then I would suggest going to Jesus and seeking him in his word. Psalms 46:1, "Our God is a refuge and power." So not only is he just, like I said, a sort of a negative place to go, but it's also he has power to do things, to do harm to people that would even come after a believer. And I believe if somebody comes after a believer, may get away with bad thing they wanted to do, but the power of God is going to catch up with them, and they are going to regret it. Psalms 59:16. For you became my shielder and my refuge in the day of affliction. We went through that as both earlier. And then Psalm 71:3. For you are my confirmation and you are my refuge. My confirmation that I have made the right decision to follow Jesus. Once I've made that decision, then I'm confirmed by that, by the dealings towards me by Jesus. And I know that I am now a confirmed believer in him. Psalms 91. O Lord, you became a refuge for us unto generation and generation. So the refuge is not just one-shot thing. You run in there and then that's it. But he is a refuge to people, and generation to generation. It means it's being passed down to the children, the grandchildren, and so forth, or a group of people to another group of people that are younger, like in a church. Unto generation or generation, he is there as a refuge. Psalms 91:9. You made the highest your refuge. I thought that was very interesting. God is the highest. So it could be talking about, he is talking about God, Daniel, writing this. But I look at that as the highest is Jesus. You made Jesus your refuge. He is our refuge for us, and he's the refuge. Psalms 104:18. A rock of refuge for the hyrax. It's interesting because it's talking about the mountains and how God takes care of different animals and humans. And he has a rock where the hyrax, which is sort of like a rabbit, can go into and hide. And so this is the rock, and Jesus is the rock for us, the rock of ages. Psalms 144:2. My mercy and my refuge. So we go there and we receive mercy instead of these people would go to the place of refuge and may not receive mercy, may be afraid. They would be in a weak condition because they would be very easily could be destroyed if they went outside of these cities. So therefore the people in the city could take advantage of that situation that they're in. And that is not mercy. But with Jesus, when we go to him, then he does, I believe, show mercy upon us and makes things easier and helps us to get through the problems of life that we have, which can be all sorts of things, health or divorce or death in a family and losing all the money and so forth, and wars, famine. And then the last one is the only one that's not written by Jeremiah, David, is in Jeremiah 16:19, and he says, O Lord, my strength and my help and my refuge in a day of evils. And the day of evils, I believe, is coming soon with the arrival of the beast. And now whether or not the believers will be there or will be taken before, I believe they will be taken before. But the day of evils, and things start going really bad, you would look at, wow, if everybody starts hating Christians and wants to kill them and get rid of them, and evil starts appearing, it's almost beginning now. I see that in the United States, and this is the month of October of 1919, and all these evils. And if you're an old person, or if you're somebody that's weak, or a lady or woman, or a child, then this evils can take their toll on a person. But it says, O Lord, my strength and my help. So he's a help in a day of evils. So I found it was very interesting to go through that study on the cataphagy, to refuge. So we'll now continue, and basically it's this Old Testament system. And this will be the order for the manslayer. Whoever should flee there and shall live. Whoever should strike his neighbor unintentionally. And this one was not detesting him before yesterday and before the third day, as even before. And whoever should enter with the neighbor into the oak grove to bring wood, and his hand was knocked back with an axe while felling the wood, and the iron implement in falling off from the wood handle should happen by chance to strike the neighbor, and he should die, this one shall take refuge in one of these cities and shall live. Now, the next of kin may have thought he did it on purpose and wanted to kill the manslayer, and so the person would have to flee. He can go to the place of refuge. He said, but then it says, lest the one acting as next of kin for blood pursue after the manslayer, because his heart is overheated, he's mad that this happened, and he overtakes him, if it might be a longer way, and if he strikes his life and he should die, and there is not a judgment of death to this man, for he was not detesting him before yesterday and before the third day. Because of this I give charge to you this thing, saying, 3 cities you shall draw apart to yourself. So if someone did kill somebody and he's running away and he is killed before he gets to the city, then basically to alleviate that possibility, they're to make these cities, which he's saying right here, and if the Lord your God should widen your borders, in which manner he swore by an oath to your fathers, and the Lord should give to you all the land which he said he would give to your fathers, and if you should listen to do all these commandments, which I give charge to you today, to love the Lord your God, to go in all his ways all the days, then you shall add to yourself again 3 cities, to these 3. So if it gets larger, more people, another 3 cities. And the blood of the innocent shall not be poured out in the land which the Lord your God gives to you by lot. And there will not be blood liability among you if you slayed somebody before he was able to get to the city, because he may have been innocent. But if there should be a man detesting his neighbor, that is, wanting to kill him, and he shall lie in wait for him, and should rise up against him, and should strike his life, and he should die, and he should flee into one of these cities, then they shall send the council of elders of his city, and they shall take him from there, and shall deliver him into the hands to the one acting as next of kin for blood, and he shall die. So if they decided that this person did do it on purpose, then the next of kin can slay him. You shall not spare your eye over him, and you shall cleanse the innocent blood from out of Israel, and it will be good to you. You shall not move the boundaries of your neighbor, which they established prior of you among your inheritance. They had these stones that marked the boundary of a land. And among your inheritance, which you inherited in the land which the Lord your God gives to you by lot. Moving boundaries is a bad thing. It's cheating and taking somebody else's land, and laws prohibit doing that. I have a property, and when I moved in, I wanted to do some work on it. The house, I went into the city to find out, and they said, well, your house is encroaching on the next property next door. It's overhanging it, so you can't do anything. So I was all bummed out, and one man said, well, the man who did the survey is still alive, old man. Give him a call, and he did it for the county. So I gave the man a call. I told him what happened. He says, oh, well, that survey that the city has is from aerial surveys of planes going over and taking pictures. And if your property is on a steep angle, then when they get it, it can be off, he said. But I did a survey, he said, so follow me. So he goes and walks around the neighborhood and has this metal detector, and we go in front of my house, and he's going along, and where this rock wall is, and all of a sudden it goes off. He said, dig here, and I dug here, and whammo, hit a steel rod. He still had a yellow ribbon or red ribbon on it from when he had did it 20, 30 years before. He says, and I looked up, and my house was to the right of that bar, and so it was legal. I could work on it. So what I did right away is I took a picture of the bar where it was with all the rocks behind it, and they're stones. They all are different, so you can tell exactly where it's at. So if anybody ever decided they want to move it, I would have proof of that. So basically that's what this was all about. And then concerning witnesses, you shall not adhere to one witness in witnessing against a man for any injustice, and for any sin whichever he should have sinned. So they have to have more than one person saying it. By the mouth of 2 witnesses, and by the mouth of 3 witnesses, every word shall be established. And there is a dagger there, so we can go to the bottom, and we see it says, well, which one was it? One of these here. It quotes it in Matthew. By the mouth of 2 witnesses, Jesus, I believe, was told them that this is what was needed. And if an unjust witness should stand against a man alleging his impiety, then the 2 men shall stand in which the dispute is with them, before the Lord, that is, at the temple, our tabernacle, and before the priests, and before the judges, as might be in those days. And the judges should inquire exactly. And behold, if an unjust witness witnessed unjustly, opposed against his brother, who he did harm against, but he did it on purpose, then you shall do to him in which manner he devised wickedly to do against his brother, and you shall lift away the wicked from out of yourselves. And that was another quotation in the New Testament. And the rest, hearing, shall fear, and they shall not add again to do according to this wicked thing among you. Your eye shall not spare him. Life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. In so far as any should give a blemish to his neighbor, thus you shall give to him. Now, we know in the New Testament that Jesus changed this, that we are to pray for the ones that are against us. If somebody steals something, takes something, to give them more, and to borrow and so forth. So this was basically the law of the land for this theocracy that was run or was ruled by God and the clergy. And so the law was given here, and the people could see it and read it. Chapter 20, concerning war. So we'll find out what the book of Deuteronomy says about war, and hope you'll join us in the next video seminar. Till then, God bless.